In this video, you'll learn how to fill bags using Tux Equipment's TMPF, mobile pump filler, and the TEVFF form fill seal machine, or more commonly referred to as the bagger. A complete understanding of the operator control panel, pre-production, startup, shutdown, and sanitation procedures is required in order to operate these machines. This video is intended to be an overview of the machines to help you understand the setup and operation. For more comprehensive instructions, refer to the operational manuals. Before we get started, let's familiarize ourselves with each of the machines. The pump uses pneumatic air pressure to transfer hot or cold product from one vessel to another. It uses stainless steel tubes, food-grade flexible hoses, and dairy clamps to make these connections. The pump's piston can be adjusted to pump up to 1 gallon of product. The bagger is powered by air pressure and electricity. Its fully automatic operation provides simple and accurate packaging. The control panel is a touch screen that is used to set up and control the operation of the machine. The bagger uses a roll of plastic film to hold the product. Different configurations are available to accommodate different size bags. The bagger can fill pouches from 2 ounces to over 2 gallons. It can fill liquid products or a combination of liquid and dry products. An optional printer can print simple text, barcodes, or logos directly on the bag. Printers are available in different sizes. Heat is applied both vertically and horizontally to seal each bag. Finally, a conveyor belt transports the sealed pouch away from the bagger. The main power disconnect is a switch located on the door of the control panel. A power cord from the panel attaches to the building's power. The connection uses a plug that must be pushed and twisted to make the connection. The power-up screen is the main point of navigation for the user. The control panel is the brains of the system, so let's get familiar with its interface. The human-machine interface, or HMI, controls the majority of the bagging operations. The HMI is a touch screen that controls the bagging, belts, conveyor, pump, and printer. Below the HMI are 3 manual buttons: Reset, E-Stop, and the Cycle Start-Stop. The Reset button resets the safety circuit. Next to the Reset button is the Emergency On-Off, or E-Stop button. When pressed in, the E-Stop button turns off the power for the controls. The next button is the Cycle Start button, which starts or stops the operation. Let's take a closer look at the menu controls on the touch screen. The Auto Mode Single Bag Mode button determines the operating mode. In Single Bag Mode, only one bag will be made. In the auto mode, the bagger will continuously make bags. The Conveyor On-Off button turns the conveyor belt on or off. Below the Conveyor On-Off button is the Jog Film button, which advances the film. Next to the Jog Film button are the Jog Horizontal Seal and Jog Vertical Seal buttons. These buttons cycle either the horizontal or vertical seal on the bag. Above the Jog button is the Belts Open-Close button. This button engages or releases the belts drive. Next to the Belts Open-Close button is the Test Fill button. This button will initiate one pump cycle into a pre-made bag. If the pump is set for multiple strokes, it will perform all the strokes as one pump cycle. Above the Test Fill button is the Pump On-Off button. This button turns the pump on or off. The pump indicator shows the status of the pump trigger valve. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see a Reset button. This button will automatically become illuminated when a fault occurs. In order to correct the problem, you must either press this button or the manual button to clear the event. In the far bottom right is the Select Screen button. Use this button to navigate to other screens. The bagger seals the plastic film both vertically and horizontally to form a pouch for the product. The vertical seal assembly heats the film to form a tube. The horizontal seal assembly has two seal bars that seal both the top of a pouch and the bottom of the next pouch. It also cuts the plastic film to create a bag. Most users have the machine set so that when the machine powers on, it automatically activates the system's heater elements. If your heater is turned off, refer to the operational manual. It takes approximately 5 to 10 minutes before the machine is ready to start packaging. While the assemblies heat up, let's start prepping the film for threading. As previously mentioned, the bagger uses a roll of plastic film to hold the product. There are several bag sizes that can be made depending on the size of the forming shoulder. If you're bagging just one size bag, then your film roller will be pre-adjusted at the factory. If you will be bagging more than one size, then you should read the operational manual. Keeping the film centered on the machine is important to its operation. There are two hubs that hold the film in place on the shaft. These hubs are adjusted to center the film on the machine. Finally, the collars straddle the saddle to hold the shaft in place. To start threading the film, place a film roll on a cart and remove the wrapper. Then place the film roll on its side and orient the film so that the film unwinds from the bottom of the roll when facing the bagger. Insert the shaft through the film roll so that the side with the two collars is oriented on the same side as the control panel. Next, slide the second hub onto the shaft and push both hubs into the film roll so that there is no play in between hubs and film. Lock the second hub. Roll the film cart behind the bagger. Ensure that the unwind motor is locked in the up position. With one person on each side of the film roll, lift and place the shaft onto the saddle, making sure the side with the two collars straddles the saddle. The film should be centered on the machine. If the film is not centered, the hubs can be slightly loosened so that the film can be moved. Be sure to retighten the hub. Make sure the encoder is in contact with the film. The encoder tracks film advance during the forming of pouches. It also provides a corresponding signal to the machine to control the length of the pouches being made. Roll the film to find the beginning of the roll. Then pull a few feet out and cut an angle from one end of the film to about 20 to 30 inches deep to create a leading edge. To start threading the film, open the side panel by loosening the large black thumb screws. When the door is opened, the machine will decompress and disable all functions inside the machine. Feed the film as illustrated on the side of the machine. First, take the film end and feed the film over the first top roller of the web assembly and down under the first bottom roller. Thread it through the printer bracket. Then proceed back up and over the second top roller and under the second bottom roller. Then continue back up and over the encoder roller and forward and under the forming shoulder roller. Bring the tip of the film over the forming shoulder and feed the tip between the shoulder and forming tube. When you can reach the film from below, slowly pull the tip while feeding it from above with your other hand. Eliminate any wrinkles on the top of the shoulder. Keep the film centered on the forming shoulder. Move to the front of the machine and pull each side down evenly and center the film on the forming shoulder. Return to the back of the machine. Check the film to be sure it's still in the center of the machine. Make sure that the film is fed through the edge guide. Lower the film unwind motor. Close the side panel and tighten the screws. On the front of the machine, re-engage the vertical seal bar. Close the front door and lock it. On the control panel, reset the emergency stop, which will pressurize the machine. On the touch screen, press the Engage Belts button to hold the film in place. Push the button to turn on the conveyor. Then, manually feed the film through the machine by pressing the Jog button. Push the Start-Stop Cycle button to make pouches. Check the pouch for seal integrity. If necessary, repeat the step until your bags seal correctly. The goal is to have the product settled in the first index delay, and once it is settled, to index again. Future threading is made easier by double taping a new roll to the old roll and feeding it through the machine. Let's get the bagger functioning by assembling and installing the nozzle. The nozzle fits inside the forming shoulder tube. This is where the product is pushed in to fill a pouch. The nozzle parts include the nozzle housing, nozzle, a Teflon dairy gasket, clamp, and O-rings. To assemble the nozzle, put the dairy gasket onto the nozzle next to the cylinder assembly. Install O-rings on the wiper of the bagger depositor nozzle. Apply a small amount of food-grade grease on the O-rings wiper. Also apply a small amount of food-grade grease on the inside of the nozzle where the wiper slides. Slide the nozzle into the nozzle housing. To install the nozzle assembly, lift it above the forming shoulder, then lower it into the forming shoulder. Position the inlet port of the nozzle toward the back left of the machine. Clamp it into place with the nozzle dairy clamp. Plug in the two airline hose extensions into the nozzle. Start assembly of the pump by locating all the parts. The parts include a plunger, barrel, rotary valve, push pins, O-rings, dairy gasket, and clamp. Attached to the pump is the head block, rotary valve cylinders, and drive cylinders. Put a small amount of food-grade grease on your finger and apply a light coat all the way around the O-rings. Then install the O-rings on the plunger. Install the plunger on the pump shaft. Then rub grease into the back side of the barrel about 2 inches all the way around. With the plunger all the way to the back, put the barrel onto the plunger. With one hand holding the gasket on the barrel, use the other hand to push the barrel into the block. Move the plunger forward until the barrel seats against the Teflon dairy gasket. An alternative method is to insert the gasket and position the barrel. Then use the hand wheel to push the blockhead. The barrel should now be supported by the plunger and the dairy gasket. Attach the dairy clamp with the nut facing one of the upper corners of the head block. Now let's install the rotary valve. On the outsides of the rotary valve, put a small amount of grease on the O-rings. Install the O-rings on the rotary valve. Wipe a small amount of grease on the bearing section of the head block, approximately 1 inch from the edges, all the way around. Lift both the upper cylinder rod and rotary valve locking arm. Then, with the valve cut out facing the metering barrel, insert the rotary valve into the head block until the rotary valve groove lines up with the valve locking arm. Lower the locking arm to lock the rotary head. Then attach the top and lower the rotary valve air cylinders to the valve arm using the 2 push pins. The pump uses a barrel and plunger to pump the product. Let's briefly explain the pump adjustments. To adjust the pump volume, make sure the plunger is forward. Loosen the lock knob on the adjusting screw. Rotate the hand wheel to move the plunger to the desired location. There are pre-marked positions for weight or volume of pouch that you'll be packaging. Rotate clockwise for more volume and counterclockwise for less. Stop at the position that you will be packaging. Tighten the lock knob on the adjusting screw to lock down the volume. The 2 flow control valves located on the drive cylinder must be adjusted to maintain a proper flow of product in the pump and also in the nozzle. These valves control the speed and amount of product that is pumped. The goal is to deposit the product fast enough and at the same time slow enough so it doesn't create splashing inside the pouch. The forward flow control valve controls forward stroke. Slowing the stroke will reduce splashing in the bag. The reverse flow control valve controls the reverse stroke. Slowing the stroke will create better weight consistency for thicker product. The pump is now assembled and can be moved to a position under the bagger. Connect the 3 control air lines from the bagger to the pump. A main air hose supplies pressure for both the pump and bagger. Connect and open the valve to apply air pressure to the system. Finally, connect the 2 air supply extension lines for the nozzle. The pump requires 90 psi, clean, dry air, 20 CSFM. The pump discharge package includes a standpipe, elbow weldment, elbow, a Food Master flex hose, dairy gaskets, and clamps. Before attaching the discharge package assembly to the machine, make sure the bagger is off by pushing the emergency stop button near the control panel. Put a dairy gasket on the head block. Then set the angled tube on the gasket and use a dairy clamp to lightly secure the connection. Place a dairy gasket onto the nozzle inlet and lightly clamp the flex hose onto the nozzle. Connect the angled side of the standpipe onto the flex hose with a dairy gasket and clamp. The last connection is an elbow that connects the standpipe to an angled tube with dairy clamps. Finally, tighten all dairy clamp connections. It's time to connect the pump to your vessel. Your connection may be different depending on the distance from the pump to the vessel. Roll the bagger to a location near the vessel. Starting at the pump, connect a 90-degree elbow to the head block using a dairy gasket and clamp. Make sure the clamp nut is facing an outside corner of the head block. Connect the next sections of the inlet package from the vessel using dairy gaskets and clamps to the elbow on the pump. You may have to move the bagger either closer or farther away from the vessel so that the tube lengths fit the run. Lightly tighten each clamp as you assemble the connections. Once you have finished with all the connections, go back and tighten the dairy clamps. If the machine is equipped with a printer, you can print directly on the bag. The printer control panel is attached to the main electrical controller. The functions at the printer control panel are basic, such as changing the expiration date of a product. More advanced options are available by using a computer and porting that information to the machine. At the main control panel, select Menu, then the Pump Printer tab. The Printer On-Off button turns the printer off or on. The Print Delay button will delay the printing to allow the film to come to a complete stop. The Print Time button is the amount of time allowed for printing before the next index is made. For setting up the more advanced features or troubleshooting the printer, please contact a printer customer service representative. The conveyor moves the bag away from the bagger. The conveyor will start and run for the time period defined on the conveyor setup screen. Most users set the conveyor to the continuous mode. The conveyor speed button sets the operating speed of the conveyor. The Start Delay button pauses the conveyor while the bag is being made. When the bag is completed, the conveyor will run for the length of the set time. The conveyor run time adjusts when the bag is cut off and drops onto the conveyor. The conveyor will start and run for the time period defined on the conveyor setup screen. With the run cycle on, the conveyor will start when the bag cycle is started. On longer bags, this pulls the bag clear to prevent buckling while filling. Bag sizes can be selected from the control panel, but sometimes you may need to adjust the bag to accommodate the product. To adjust the size of the bags, go to the touch screen and select Menu and choose Film Setup. On the Film Setup screen, enter the parameters for the product recipe that will be running. The bag length shows the current pouch size. This can be adjusted by tapping the up or down arrows. Below the bag length are 4 index areas with corresponding adjustments. The first index adjusts the length of the bag. This number must be equal to or smaller than the total bag length. If the first index length is shorter than the total bag length, then the first index length will be subtracted from the total bag length to obtain the second index value, and the film will index twice. The first index delay adjusts when the product fills the bag. The second index delay is when the pump is done pumping and the product is all settled in the bag and the bag is sealed. This delay is adjusted depending on the viscosity of the product. Refer to the operational manual for more detailed instructions. Once you have achieved the correct amount of product in your bag, you can begin filling the bags until the vessel is empty. When approaching the bottom of the vessel and the only food product remaining is in the transfer hoses, it's time to clean the bagger and/or prepare for the next recipe. Without stopping the pump, add approximately 2 to 5 gallons of water to the vessel. This will help push the remaining food through the hoses into the bags. Once a bag contains mainly water, discontinue bagging and discard. Now, add more water to the vessel and pump continuously to clean the tubes, nozzle, and pump. Keep running water through the pump until the water runs clear. Add water and cleaning detergents to the vessel. Then, at the touch screen, select Menu and choose the Pump Printer button. Press and hold the Make Tube button. This allows you to make a clean-out tube from the machine to the drain. Once you get the desired length, you can cut the end of the bag and place it next to the drain. Then go back to the touch screen to the Pump Printer menu, and under the Pump Cleanout controls, press Pump Clean to cycle the pump continuously. When the water runs clear, press the Pump Clean button again to turn off the pump. Before you start disassembly of the machine, you must make sure the machine is disabled. To disable the machine, press the Disengage Belts button on the touch screen. For safety, you can also press the Emergency Stop button. This will completely turn off the machine. Before you can move the pump out of the way, you need to disconnect the air lines and tubes. At the pump, turn off the air supply and disconnect the main pneumatic hose. Disconnect the remaining air lines to the pump. There's usually some liquid in the tubes, so you always want to start disassembly of the tubes at the lowest point. Start by loosening a dairy clamp and allow the liquid to drain. One by one, remove all the connections from the pump to the nozzle. Place the parts on the accessory cart. Disconnect the 2 pneumatic air lines for the nozzle. Remove the nozzle by disconnecting the dairy clamp, then pull straight up on the tube. At the pump, remove the hose connections to the vessel. All the parts must be disassembled, cleaned, and sanitized before and after each job. Roll the pump out from under the bagger for cleaning. Remove the push pins on the rotary valve. With one hand, lift the top cylinder and valve lock. Then, with the other hand, remove the rotary valve by gently tapping on the side so it can be pulled out. To remove the barrel, disconnect the dairy clamp. Then push it up and down and to the sides to loosen it. Finally, pull the barrel off the plunger. Remove the plunger by lifting it straight up off the shaft. All the parts must be disassembled, cleaned, and sanitized before and after each job. The safety of the personnel operating this equipment is the sole responsibility of the user. Operators and technicians should read, understand, and follow warnings and instructions in the manual for this equipment. An understanding of the correct operation and maintenance procedures are critical to ensuring proper operation and an accident-free workplace. For more information, refer to the operational manuals or contact Tux Customer Service.